You might still be in a food coma, so I've got all the Survivor Series winners for you next. I hope you had a fantastic Thanksgiving full of good food and football, but we've got work to do to correctly split that wishbone for each Survivor Series match. So let's start with a recap, and it was the 4th time that I was perfect on my picks since BackLash, going 4-0 at Saturday night's main event number 41. So that takes our record to 50-10, a pristine 83.33% hit rate on our picks. So keep on coming here for all of those winners, and let's do it again for Survivor Series. And as always, we'll start with the history, this time of Survivor Series, and it is one of the big 4, and this will be the 39th Survivor Series in WWE history, but just the 4th Survivor Series featuring WarGames on the main roster. So in the 6 WarGame matches on the main roster, the face team has won 5 of the 6 matches, including both matches last year. And the only heel team to win was the OG Bloodline back in 2022, so it has been quite a while since we saw a heel team win. Face teams winning these WarGames matches is the standard in WWE, because when you go back to 2017 through 2021 for NXT, faces lead overall 10-4. And I broke it down further last year, as there are 4 types of teams: face factions, heel factions, face super friends, and heel super foes. So to constitute a faction for my purposes, you must have at least 3 members be aligned in that faction. So tag teams with 2 people, they do not count as factions. And this year I'm considering the men's match to be faction versus faction, because I am counting all 3 members of the Bloodline together, and I'm also counting Logan Paul as part of the Vision. And on the main roster, we've seen a faction versus faction matchup 2 times, with 1 face side winning and 1 heel side winning, but surprisingly enough, it was the OG Bloodline winning in both of those matches. But on the women's side, I'm considering this a Super Friends versus Super Foes matchup, and strangely enough, this is the first time in all 8 matches on the main roster that we have a Super Foes team, as I'm considering 2 tag teams on each side of the equation. And no, even though Nia and Lash have 0 tag matches together, I'm still going to count them as a tag team. But while we can't talk about Super Foes teams, Super Friends teams are 3-0 so far, because we never seem to quite have enough good gals to make a face faction, so be sure to keep that equation in mind here. But as far as title matches go, in this WarGames era, we've had 2 title changes in 7 title matches, with Austin Theory winning in 2022 and Shinsuke Nakamura winning last year. And both of those were mid-card titles in the United States title, so keep that in mind, because no world titles have changed hands yet. But let's get to the picks and start with that world title for the Women's World Championship, with Stephanie Vaquer as a favorite at -2,500, and Nikki Bella is at +800. So why Stephanie? Since winning at WrestlePalooza, she won the Crown Jewel Championship and won her sole defense a couple weeks ago. That led to Nikki's heel turn, and after Nikki attacked Stephanie from behind as she went down the ramp a couple weeks ago, well, I guess that went about as well as possible, that they didn't have anything else to say this week. But Adam Pearce already gave up the game to this match, telling Raquel that she'd be in the mix after this match is over, and I'm pretty confident that the entire Judgment Day is not all turning face anytime soon. So if Raquel is getting the next shot, well, a match with Nikki just doesn't make as much sense. And yes, we've already seen reports as well that either Rhea or Becky are being discussed as Stephanie's opponent for WrestleMania. So I guess that means that Stephanie is not losing that title before WrestleMania. So there's nothing to say here, but Stephanie is deservedly a pretty big favorite. But why could Nikki win? Well, we are still 4.5 months until WrestleMania, so that is plenty of time to change things up, even if it is just for a short while and go right on back to the way it was, kind of like maybe what we're going to see in another match here in a moment. But the way the title changed hands in early 2025 from Liv to Rhea to Io, I guess it seems that this title is the most likely of the world titles to do just that. And Nikki is also already a Hall of Famer, so you can't really rule this out for one final title run. And I guess this is especially true if something crazy like Brie Bella showing up were to happen, And Brie recently said that she wants that final run as well. And while I think that should be for the tag team titles as a much more likely scenario, but hey, this one's a big four, so why not? And if by some miracle this becomes an all-time classic that demands a rematch, well, look no further than Becky Lynch, because even Becky did not beat Lyra in their first matchup, and Nikki already lost to Becky for the IC title, so there's just no way that she's turning around to win the big one just a few months later on her first shot, right? Well, yeah, I don't think so. Stephanie is the pick, and this one's going to be a full unit bet. Then match number 2 is our mid-card title, and it's the Intercontinental Championship with John Cena as the new champion at plus 300, taking on Dominic Mysterio at minus 500. So why could Cena win here? Because the champ is here! And man, that could be the last time that I actually get to say that, huh? We know that Cena has exactly one match after this, and making that match for the IC title certainly raises the stakes for that final match. So the only thing better than beating Cena in his final match is also beating him in his final match to win the IC championship. And earlier in the year, we also had Cena beat Rhodes and then drop the title to him in the rematch. So are they really just going to do the same thing twice in a row in the same year? Well, I don't know. We'll find out. And even though Dom was having a good run here with the IC title, should he also lose this match and then go on to lose the AAA Mega title next? Well, we could possibly see a new women's IC champion in Roxanne Perez in the very near future, and perhaps that would be enough to catch Dom's eye just a little bit, with enough time before Liv Morgan makes her big return to spice things up a little bit. But why could Dom win this one? Well, because they want Dom to be a double champion, just like the way they made Chelsea Green and Ethan Page double champions. And I'm not exactly sure why they want or need WWE AAA double champions as a thing sprouting up all over the place, but apparently that's the way we're going. And Cena's win wasn't really the plan for the story, it was just a convenient way to let Cena be a Grand Slam champion before he rode off into the sunset, so this win by Dom would just put everything right back to where it was always supposed to be. And you know what, seeing Dom and Roxanne as IC champions together also sounds pretty enticing before Liv returns. And as far as Cena goes, what else does he have to do, as he only has one match left, and whoever beats him in that final match gets more than enough rub to last a lifetime, title or no title on the line. And if there is no title involved, it at least leaves the possibility open that Cena wins his final match. And of course, he's not going to actually leave WWE with the title, so yeah, if he's not the champion, at least that match, it seems, up in the air. And since Cena is no longer a heel, he's definitely not leaving WWE with a title, so him losing here at least makes that match seem on point. And Cena also has exactly 100 PLE wins, so that almost sounds better to end with exactly 100 than with 101, so there is no need for him to get this win for any sort of record. And Balor and McDonough were also on hand to help out Dom on Cena's final Raw before all three of them lost in that tag match. And Dom also tagged with El Grande Americano over the weekend, so it certainly could be in the cards for him to show up again and help him out to have an even bigger advantage after Rey Mysterio tries to make one final save on Cena's behalf. Well, there's just always something screwy going on in a Dominic Mysterio match, so this one will be no different, and letting Cena still look strong in defeat to set up that final match in DC sounds like the way to go, so Dom is the pick, and we'll make this one a half unit bet. Match number 3 is that women's WarGames match between the Super Friends team of Rhea, Io, Alexa, Charlotte, and AJ at minus 700, taking on the Super Foes team of Asuka, Kairi, Nia, Lash, and Becky at plus 400. So why the face team here? As I said above, we've had 3 Super Friends team matches in the 3 prior women's WarGames matches, and they've won them all. As is always the case, the bad gals attacked the good gals along the way, and that cost the Allies of Convenience their tag team titles, so Alexa and Charlotte certainly need to get some retribution. And despite being beaten at Crown Jewel, the Kabuki Warriors have called out Rio since then, so that's clearly not over yet either, and this time it could actually lead to a tag team title match there too. And AJ's just in her second match back and took a pretty good wallop from Becky on SmackDown, so this gives her another chance to heat up for that certain one-on-one match in the near future. So why the heels? There are two major things that give me reason to pick the heels here, so spoiler alert, as SmackDown for Black Friday tonight was filmed immediately after last week's SmackDown, so jump ahead to the next chapter if you don't want to hear that part. So reason number one is the faces have gotten the best of the heels 2 times in a row now. First on Raw, we saw the faces stand tall in the ring after Rhea initiated the attack, as Rhea and Charlotte were shown to be on the same page as they both landed simultaneous big boots to clear the ring. Then on this upcoming SmackDown night, Charlotte will beat Asuka cleanly to win the WarGames Advantage match, as there is no interference, there are no shenanigans, no one else is even going to show up. Charlotte is simply going to hit the natural selection to win this match. So it appears the faces are getting a bit too much of the upper hand going into this match. But a word of caution there, as they didn't seem to film 2 hours worth of content from what I was able to see on YouTube, so maybe, just maybe, they film more backstage segments at SmackDown or even on Raw to be played on SmackDown. That will change the calculus on that math. And second, on Raw, they really made things all about just Becky and AJ, with everyone else just kind of standing in the background, and that was certainly a weird choice since those two were the last ones to join, though I suppose that could be only because they thought everyone else's story was already complete and they simply had to get something in between Becky and AJ. However, if Becky and AJ is the primary story, AJ got the first win in that mixed tag, so it makes sense for Becky to get the second win here to lead to their blow-off third match to end the feud. That said, it seems like it's all the good gals who need to win to push this story forward to set up matches for tag titles, or for Becky to continue to feel aggrieved for all the injustices against her. So she feels like she needs to call out AJ as a way to keep her away from that IC title, as it seems now clear that Maxine will go through Ivy and then probably lose to Roxanne, effectively ending Becky's title hopes while it remains in litigation before her case becomes moot once Maxine loses. So the Super Friends, the face team, is the pick, and we'll make it a half unit bet. And match number 4 is our men's WarGames match, with the face faction being the bloodline of Roman Reigns and the Usos, with CM Punk and Cody Rhodes at plus 150, taking on the heel faction of The Vision, Braun Breaker, Bronson Reed, and Logan Paul, with Paul Heyman in their corner, as well as with Drew McIntyre and Brock Lesnar at minus 200. So why the faces when you have almost, inarguably, the 3 biggest stars on one side? It seems very unlikely that they are to lose. And when you toss in main event Jey Uso, with the year he's had, well, that's 4 stars who you would think would win. Now, Rhodes and Punk are also the 2 champions, so having both of them lose just generally may be a bad look overall. But I have to admit, that's really all that I can come up with here for the faces. So why the heels? Well, these guys all desperately want what the other guys have, which is all the gold. And combine that with the fact that Reigns, Punk, and Rhodes didn't exactly have warm and fuzzy convos on Raw, with Reigns saying to one of them that the title would look better on him. Well, there's certainly a lot of potential discord in the air for this team. And then on top of that, you really could see more seeds of doubt planted between Jey and either or both Jimmy and Reigns, as not only did the Usos lose the WarGames Advantage match on Raw, should either Uso take the ultimate pin here, things could go into complete chaos between these 3. But that's not the only chaos, because a heel win also is more interesting, because Brock Lesnar, certainly, and Logan Paul, possibly, will be looking for their title opportunities following whatever deals they struck with Paul Heyman to join this team, which will cause the Brawns to potentially blow some gaskets, being forced to wait even longer for their title opportunities. And even if that somehow isn't the case, well, we have to think that the Bronze should be next in line for title shots at CM Punk. But if the faces were to win, well, the heels aren't just gonna slip away into the abyss, so it makes more sense for the heels to have that momentum to have actually earned their title chances. But spoiler alert, because just like the women's WarGames Advantage match, Jey Uso has his quarterfinal tournament match against Rusev on tonight's SmackDown, and he wins with no outside interference, so what we saw on Raw seems to be it as the build for this match. So while things ended in chaos, it appears that the faces got the best of things, especially on Logan Paul once the cameras stopped rolling. So if we stick to the stories out there, the stars really are aligned for the heels to win this one over the mere star power of the faces, so we will go with that and make the heels the pick, and we'll even make this a half unit bet. When I thought of these matches, I thought any of those last three that we talked about could have been underdog picks, but alas, the book has done it again and been in agreement with me, so we have all favorites here today with Stephanie for a full unit, Dom for a half unit, the Super Friends women's team for a half unit, and the heel faction men's team for a half unit. And as always, remember to never bet more than you can afford to lose, and I also hope that you're eating some tasty Thanksgiving leftovers as you enjoy Survivor Series. So while you're on that couch, be sure to go right on over here and check out this week's Stop the 10 Count, where I talk all about the WarGames setup and those tournament matches from both SmackDown and Raw. So until next time, I am the SportsZu, and this is a podcast that needs a new name.